order of the Arlington Heights Memorial Library Board of Library Trustees Committee of the Whole for Monday, April 4th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gallo.
Yes.
Trustee Meadow.
Here.
Trustee Rule.
Here.
Trustee Smart.
Here.
Trustee Samari.
Here.
Trustee Sutcliffe.
Here.
President Dick.
Here. All right, let's go on to item 1, strategic plan.
Okay, so we are working on preparing to go out to bid for the strategic plan that we have budgeted for 2022. And I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention for discussion, just to make sure that the committee still feels that it's an appropriate time to move forward with our strategic plan. So I just want to give you guys the opportunity to weigh in before we go out to bid.
I'm good.
Well, I
Yeah.
would just have a comment. I know it's expensive, but I think 5 years is way too long. We're still in transition right now. There are some things that have not completely settled down and things that we may think, even the third year, that we're gonna move toward. We don't know. We don't know. This is really the year of figuring things out, I think. And so I would hate to, do all that work and then the last 2 years of may work, may not, so anyway, I think 5 years is too long for a strategic plan anyway. So that's my thoughts. I wouldn't go past 3 years.
Is there a way that we can build in some type of flexibility, I suppose? And the reason I say that is because my work, we're just started working on our 5-year strat plan. And, the sales goals and everything for 5 years, I was talking to them, there's no way that we're gonna know what's gonna be the future in 5 years. We're gonna, this year and next year, we probably can do okay, but it's gonna be a guesstimate after that. I know these are supposed to be kind of like hard-coded type of projects, that we work towards, but is there any way that we can do this but build in flexibility, say if at a certain point it doesn't work or things have changed, where we would make a change to this particular one, but yet these are the strategies and these are the overall directions that we want to go. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think, strategic plan, you get those overarching themes of the priorities of the community and the library. And, I think we could adjust that down the road if we wanted to, just not adjust those themes, but adjust our tasks.
Well, technically, we did that with this last one, because initially, if you remember, we were having discussions about a second branch. And we changed gears and went to a maker's place. And I think, while I agree with Carol, and I agree with you, in typical business environments, it is a 5-year plan.
Right.
And that's where this kind of came from. But I think, a lot of this too, I think is okay delayed because of COVID, and I think it's okay delayed because we did switch gears and went into the makerspace mode. So, I think this is okay that we waited 5 years on this particular one, but, it's 3 to 5 years is kind of the standard, but I think if we're moving in a business model, it's typically 5.
I would just say though, that the last 2 years would be more, kind of building on what Greg said, then more general and not specific. And also, I hope the board understands the strategic plan is not etched in stone. It is guidance and it's a communication tool with the organization, as far as I'm concerned. So, where there might be more detail in the first 2 years, the third year might not have as much, and the fourth and fifth years are less detail even then. It might be big chunks or something like that, we're looking toward.
Anybody else have any thoughts? 3, 5 years?
It seems to me 3 seems more realistic, even for businesses now. Yeah, maybe they used to do 5 years, but come on, with the technology changing as rapidly as it does, I wonder if we could do 5-year, I don't know, goals, but to your
That's what I mean,
point,
a little
really
more
break,
general.
maybe we could have more specific strategies for the first couple, but then who knows? The racetrack is going to change Arlington Heights potentially. There could be other developments. There could be, none of us ever thought that a little virus was going to change the world. So who knows?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so for us, we do a 3-year plan, but it's a rolling 3-year plan. So every year you're looking the third year out. So 22, you look to 24, 23, you look to 25. So you're adjusting as you're moving on the out years.
Mhm.
And, you know, it sounds great in theory and it works, but intuitively, that's what you do anyway. I think 5 years is a stretch, but again, we adjust, we have to adjust. That's what we do. So I don't care. What I care about is getting it done and getting it done really, really well, because the one that we have has paid huge dividends for us.
It is an outcry to our community also, too. We have to remember that. So whatever's in it is something that we seriously believe we're committed to.
Well, and
At that
our
time.
ability to engage the community is enormously important.
Right.
So 5 years with the idea of that at the end of it, it's gonna build in some flexibility. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, and once we go out to bid and select a company to work with, we'll get their input as well and get their advice and come back to the board with a recommendation for entering into a contract with someone, and then we can provide that feedback of what the consultant says as well.
Can you go over just kind of high level, kind of the plans, time frame, and how we did it? And maybe kind of also refer back to maybe how we did it last time, if we're gonna maybe change anything.
Sure, yeah, so we went out to bid back in 2017. We received a number, probably a dozen or so bids for it. We went through them all and we ended up selecting one that was about in the middle of the range. Library Strategies was the company that we worked with. We then worked with them to do a community survey. We did an in-house staff survey. We did a focus group with the community on a Saturday, and then we also did focus groups with the staff. They then came back with our plan as you know it, and we also created kind of a task list that kind of spoke to each of those main points. And so that's what we were working off of in this last round. And this last round was a 3-year plan, but it kind of went maybe a little bit longer because we started it a little bit early. So, yeah, I think it would make sense to continue with either, probably closer to the 3, especially the way things are changing. And we were very happy with Library Strategies. So, hopefully they'll throw in a bid this time. There's also a couple other ones that have been very popular in the library world recently. So we'll give them a look too if they bid on it. So next step, we will put out the RFP and we'll bring it back to the board probably the June meeting, and then engage with them in June, and then work with them over the next few months to actually come up with a plan, and then we'll report back once we have the plan.
With the idea of executing it probably towards the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
End of this year.
End of
We
this
want to
year.
have it completed by the end of this year.
Right. Okay.
We did interview Library Strategies in person, if I remember, before the deal was signed. Just so,
Probably,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we were down to a
I
couple.
mean, the
of them.
board did actually.
Oh,
They
they did?
actually, yeah, we actually interviewed them based on your recommendations. Just so you remember.
It was actually fun, the ones that we did with the citizens and everything, we were bringing people in. Trustees were there, part of the conversation, kind of being active and listening in and stuff. It was actually a really great experience. So hopefully we can do that all again and be able to, everybody can be involved in that.
Okay, that's all. Yeah, we'll move ahead. Thanks.
Very good. Any other comments? Questions on that? Okay. Let's go on to item 2, proposed revisions to policy 7.03, soliciting or distributing materials on library property.
Okay, so we wanted to bring some minor changes to our soliciting or distributing materials on the library property policy. The impetus for bringing this policy is on the first page of the policy, about midway down. The change solicitation is permitted on library property outside of the building in the designated area at the ground level on Dutton Avenue, or in other areas as designated by staff or directed by staff. We wanted to change that to not put the onus on staff to make that decision, but to actually have it consistent with our other policies and say unless otherwise approved by library administration. So that was kind of a major change in this. In addition to that, we kind of reviewed this and looked at other policies and other libraries. Made a few other minor changes. As you can see, we defined solicitation in that first paragraph and just referred to it throughout instead of redefining what that was. We added the line, library reserves the right to deny or limit the time, place, and manner of the sale of merchandise and services or solicitation of donations. The reason we're doing that is because sometimes these solicitations do cause issues with people entering and exiting the building, especially down in the lower level. And so we want to make sure that we have it documented in our policy that we can limit that as needed. So of course, the safety and convenience of our customers is first and foremost, and, but we do want to be able to give people the opportunity to solicit outside of the building.
What are your typical requests?
We have donation requests, like collections. We have selling things like Girl Scout cookies. We have one right now, a request to have a collection for Ukraine and then sell things at a table outside the library to help raise funds. So stuff like that. It's all over the place. And some people just kind of show up on a Saturday and request some space out there and the library.
Political as well.
Political as well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
political's a
gathering
big one.
signatures.
actually.
Yeah, I would think.
And so, can I ask a question? So this means we will be stopping any collection of signatures down in the lower level lobby by the elevators, as we've done in the past. We've had people down there camping unannounced, I know not having our permission. And I agree with you about not laying it on staff, but I think then security needs to understand that those people shouldn't be down there anymore because they sit down there all day and it does give that appearance that we're actually promoting one candidate over another, and we don't do that. So-
Right, and I think we actually changed this policy a couple of years ago to make that change. So we haven't had that in a while, not that we are approving. So sometimes they just kind of go down there and collect signatures until somebody reports it or security asks them to move out to the side.
It might be helpful to even, once this policy is finalized, to have it on that bulletin board down there, just so that the security guard could say, hey,
Mhm.
it's posted here as well.
Even a sign on by the elevator, no solicitation, so they see it, yeah.
Good point. John?
Two comments here, Mike, and these are language ones. So going to the policy as we drafted it, the last paragraph in section 1, the sentence that begins library employees, however, may not. Should we be saying on duty library employees?
You're looking
The final, the clean version.
at the last page. That's the original version.
Oh, that's the
So
original
yeah,
version.
step back a couple pages. We actually removed that from.
So you didn't, oh, okay, so the struck out version is the new version.
Right.
Okay, then there is one other area, number 3, the last line. In no case will library employees, well, in no case will on-duty library.
Got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
The one that I had was in section 1, second paragraph, second paragraph, which begins to engage in solicitation. An individual group, should it be an individual or
Or
group?
group. Yep.
Yeah. Any more comments, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. This makes a lot of sense to me. So do the staff that work at the checkout desk and the information desk, would they have a copy of this so that they know exactly?
Yep. So they're very well
Yeah, I
versed
mean,
in our
it's that
policies.
way, I just remember going to some different libraries, not here, looking for some material, and it's like frustrating when the actual staff that's there might not know the answer.
Yeah.
to
They
something
would
like
they would
this.
definitely have it.
And things like this too are on the website
Yeah.
too, right? So they can just pull it up from there too.
And they'll all be notified of the changes and.
It's a good idea to think about it before the next election season.
It's an interesting thing. When we do change a policy like this, just curious, what's the operation for that? Do we send it out to everybody? Does everybody have to do training on it, sign off on it? They've seen it or?
They don't have to sign off on it, but Janet, do you want to speak to the process?
Yeah, just like you're notified that there are policy changes, obviously you've discussed them, but this goes out to staff as well then. And it goes to the manager, so it's up to the manager to communicate to the department.
Okay. But there's,
Policy changes, affect.
but there's nothing that said, there's nothing that records that says, so-and-so, read it and.
No.
learned it and all that.
No, but we did talk about it in the open mic meeting and then, and then we sent it out to the managers to.
Yeah, I don't want to create more red tape. You just might want to think about, because it helps sometimes. A lot of businesses are doing this nowadays where, you've got to read a policy or whatever's changed, and you're required to sign off on it, that you actually read it type of a thing, instead of just assuming that people have read it. Just kind of, it just kind of dots that one I cross that last T type of thing. Something to consider.
This is pretty easy to do too.
Okay, good. Any other questions, comments on that? All right, let's go on to item 3, participation and representation in Rails ILA and ALA. This is based off of a comment that I had made during the board meeting. As I said, Deb's done a lot of the heavy lift, and Carol, I do know that, I do realize that you do a lot also, from your position, so I'm not trying to minimize that. But, from the board, from the board, there's a lot of things, that maybe do we need to do differently. We used to have a representative, on Rails. He was one of the individuals that was on Rails, so we had direct link into that. Thank you for putting together, what's going on right now with the Rails board. I kind of just want to get everybody's feelings though. Is there something that we need to do other than Deb? As far as getting on, and how do we want to approach this, or being involved in this type of, how do we want to approach this?
I think absolutely we need to, and I nominate Amy.
Well, I'm looking at this though, that says that reflects the diversity of membership in terms of race, ethnicity, age, geographic. I mean, I'm not very diverse,
Well, you're
although.
pretty young though, considering what's on there.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, I know that didn't.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Huh?
Sarah's quite a bit
Just
younger
letting you
than me,
know.
and I'm guessing you are too.
Just letting you know.
But seriously, is that, so are there many trustees from? So I guess, what am I adding? I'm adding for Arlington Heights to have representation. Am I adding
We're
anything else?
nominating somebody, they're selecting them. It's for them.
Well, no,
to choose.
it's a
No, it's
vote.
a vote, it's an
The
election.
member, the.
Yeah,
ILA,
yeah,
yeah.
but that's my point.
Right.
We're, our job is nominate.
Yeah.
Well,
Or-
this is who we get to nominate.
Or, yeah, or someone can just say, I'm interested, and, apply. So, and sometimes, they don't get many people to run, it's kind of, we still have this opening, sometimes it just depends. And now, though, the law does allow, doesn't it, meeting remote?
Yeah, they're in Zoom now.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
even off this
Yeah,
thing,
but they
the
meet on
executive
Zoom.
orders, I believe that.
Rails meets Zoom.
Yeah, no, otherwise, the headquarters is in Burr Ridge,
Yeah.
which is kind
Well,
of far away.
I would consider it. Perhaps I could talk to someone offline about what's entailed. Debbie.
Always
Well,
be closing.
I mean,
It's, it's similar to a board like
Yeah.
this. Policies are brought forward
Right.
and, the staff does most of the work. And the board discusses things but there's a representation of public libraries, trustees, public library employees, special library employees, school library, academic, because it's a multi-type
Sure.
system. So I don't know how large, do you know how large your board is,
It's like
Mike?
15.
15.
15, I think they have like almost 20 committees right now.
And
A lot of public trustees. I
are there now, yeah, well, it's hard to get for special libraries,
think there's one from special.
yeah. But,
Sure.
Yeah, well, when you first mentioned it, what I was thinking is also just being more kind of in tune with what's going on in ALA and Rails and all that, because I know you are very involved, but even maybe not being even on a board there, but, attending a meeting or, and I'm not saying these are only how many of us, but to divide into committees, I'm not suggesting that, but just somehow, because we get the emails, I understand that, but just to have a representation, like showing up, like, hey, we're from Arlington, just once in a while. I mean, that seems feasible. I mean.
I don't think that meets our need, because part of our need is to raise our visibility.
Mhm.
I mean, Arlington Heights Memorial Library needs to be highly visible at all these levels of board development, ILA, ALA, and Rails.
and if I can add something here. Have you looked at the ILA ballot? First time ever that someone is running for president of ILA who does not have an MLS.
That's right.
First time. So, and they're both from tiny little libraries.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this year is over for that, but next year, what I'm saying is, this is proving to me that people don't want to serve.
Yeah.
And there are trustees on the ILA board, and that might be something for this board to consider, for next year, because that would raise your visibility, even far more than Rails does. Or our visibility, but yeah, I was shocked when I saw that,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so what's the next steps?
Can I say one more thing
Yeah.
too? This is not a big commitment,
No,
okay, I'm gonna tell you. It's a more advisory type, governance type position, but John is exactly right. In our heyday, which I'm not saying it's not now, but we used to have major representation on a lot of things, Carol can tell you. And that has kind of dissipated. I think it's kind of dissipated somewhat from the staff perspective, but I know there's some new invigoration going on there with that. I know Mike's gonna be involved in that. But we have responsibility as one of the finest libraries in the country to serve. We have the responsibility to share our knowledge and our resources and help other libraries lift themselves up. And this is one way that we can do that. So I am all for this. It's a difficult time right now in the library world. That shirt that I gave you wasn't by mistake. I mean, there's a lot of creepy stuff going on. And it's gonna take somebody, a strong person like an Amy, who's a good mind, professional, thoughtful, and also bring some new perspectives to things, because we're kind of almost in a generational void. Wouldn't you kind of say that?
well,
It's kind of crazy right now. So I think we really could use you in this position. There are other positions. There's the Illinois Library Association Trustee Forum,
oh, yeah.
which is something that somebody could look into that is not, only meets twice a year. One of the meetings is actually at the convention.
That would be a good
That's a
foot in the
good-
door for a
that's a
board
good-
position.
That is a good foot in the door for somebody new.
Yeah.
But there are other positions. ALA has a ton of committee positions out there. They can't get anybody to serve, as Carol has.
PLA,
PLA has talked to you about. The issue within our library world, though, is it's very complex. There's a lot of organizations, there's a lot of committees, there's a lot of groups. But I think Rails is a good place for us to focus our efforts, because it's something that directly affects us as a library. So I'm all for the Rails commitment. And when my term is up, I'm leaving my ALA position, just so you guys know, when my term is up shortly. So we need to start planning Plan B, because I've done I sold my Girl Scout cookies. I'm about done. I'm tired. I mean, this last thing I just got on is like a full-time friggin' job for me. It's crazy. And, I want to go fishing. So I think Amy would be fantastic, and I would wholeheartedly hope she would think about doing it. It's time to step up and be the next board and be the future. And I believe in term limits. That's why I'm not going to probably run again unless something crazy happens. But I mean, I think we need the next generation of leaders to step up. This is a great library and needs to be represented.
And, you know, and I second that. You're right, in the heyday, things, I have kind of bridged from the old to the new. And, you know, when I think of libraries that were so involved in, so, you know, not just Arlington Heights, but Schaumburg and, well, and I should even speak for my own library. I mean, I paid my dues. I was president of ILA a number of years ago, but we don't have that. That's why we have these, I'm sure they're fine people, but they're from these little libraries, you know, and I mean, it's different, you know.
It's conversely true though for ALA, because ALA is now getting top loaded with university intellectual librarians and.
Oh,
and
they've been for
trustees.
years. In fact,
They're
you know
really
how,
in it
do you
now.
know how I vote?
Yeah.
Public library. That's the only people I vote for,
It's
public
happening now.
library.
It's
Done that
created
for
some problems.
20
Yeah.
years, yeah. But yeah, yeah, you're right. This is pushing Arlington Heights back into
Prominence.
prominence as far as others know, yeah.
So I think all of us, you know, any of us would serve whatever board we get on really well. Obviously, we have to find the right fit. Mike, I hate putting anything more on you or the staff, but is it possible to put together basically a list of going through all three of those, of the potential positions that trustees can serve on?
Sure.
And
I mean,
we'll
is ALA, PLA and ILA?
ALA, yes.
Mhm.
There'll be a lot. with that.
Hundreds.
With which one?
The subcommittees, ALA.
Yeah, there's hundreds.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, trustees
So-
can serve on anything. It was specific to like trustee forum.
If you really want to do that, you need to go to the ALA convention and sit down and understand what goes on there, because there
well,
are committee meetings constantly that you could be on.
no, and I do
Some
understand
of them
that.
are a waste of time.
I do understand that, but I think we need a starting point. So maybe just like a.
I was gonna say, don't burden them with that, especially when it's reading that we could do on our own too.
I just want,
I can probably get that at least from ALA. I can reach out to Mike.
okay, can you do that then? Okay, do that, and I guess,
And that would be PLA too. That would be the subsets.
You know,
And
and then
then
just
for libraries, I can get all that.
all right.
and maybe get the information on trustee forum from ILA.
Okay,
And
all
then
right,
there's
great.
rails here.
And then obviously we've got something on the rails here. Okay, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for that, Violet.
Great idea.
Anything else, guys? Okay, great. All right, let us move on to other. Deb,
Hi,
I,
President Zick.
Here we go.
I would like us to have staff consider a way for us to acknowledge Gay Pride Month, as it has been something that we've been programming now for 10+ years at all levels of the library, children's, the young kids, teens, adults. And the library does such a good job during that month. But as we know, there's been a higher profile regarding acknowledging that segment of our fast-growing community. We're up to 19%, if you all don't know, no longer 10% here in Arlington Heights. And I would like the library to consider flying the gay flag. Specifically, I'm talking about the gay flag in June this year for Gay Pride Month.
How, the logistics of like which flagpole, where
Then
would,
it all have to be worked out by staff. I trust staff to do that. And I don't know necessarily it has to be on a flagpole. It could be hung from the building. I mean, I just think the representation is important in this town at this time.
Yeah, I'm all in support of supporting Gay Pride Month and the Arlington Heights Memorial Library being representative of that, absolutely. I have a really hard line when it comes to the use of flagpoles, period. Flagpoles to me should be only used for the purpose of which it's there to serve. It's for the US flag, the municipal and the county flag, the state flag. That's it. No other cause, political agenda, event, what have you, should be flown from the flagpole. That having been said, I'm all about banners, you know, and representation and visibility, particularly for this Gay Pride Month. But I would say that we should probably look at a calendar where we're really planning these things out more long-term, so that there is a rhythm and a strategy to what it is that we're doing. So that it's not just, doesn't come off as seeming ad hoc.
Sure.
Yeah, I am completely in favor of this idea as it really reflects in our strategic plans we're just talking about in diversity and inclusion, and what more way to demonstrate inclusivity than representing and showing that, you know, supporting 19% of Arlington Heights. And I respectfully disagree with Trustee Suplet about the flagpole in that, I mean, even, you know, our current president has approved being able to fly a flag at all embassies, and it's not a political statement, it's representing human beings. So however that's decided, other things that have been done are, I believe even the White House has shown, you know, lights against the building. So if that is a decision by the board, that's fine. You know, however it's chosen, I do think it's really important that we make a plan. And I don't know if too much, I mean, it's month of June, you know, we've got things logistically, I think it's very doable.
And actually, Sarah is correct. The United States government has approved the pride flag as one of the flags that can be flying by a flagpole. So just so we're aware.
Sure.
I would say if we had, you know, because even the American flag can be hung like this. We had something like that at both entrances, that would be noticed more than it on a flagpole.
I agree with that. I think that's true.
If you, you know, coming in, you would see it immediately. Otherwise, if you call it, you tell people, oh, look, we've done this on the flagpole.
Yeah.
So, and if you're
I like
trying,
that idea.
And, you know, it was a big deal with the village board, right? And there was a lot of discussion about that. I listened to some of it,
Yeah.
and I think most people that spoke came from a very honest and open place. I didn't necessarily agree with the final decision, but what the mayor said was that they wouldn't fly it in the village hall on a flagpole. We're, I feel like, more part of the community, a sense of the community than the village hall. Like, people come to this facility and go to the Maker Place and go to Rec Park across from the Maker Place more often than they go to the village hall. And I think it fits with our mission. I do. And I like the idea of looking at some other things, because I think there might be some other opportunities there too. Not to do a different flag every single month, but
That's it, why not? I mean, that's the thing, once we are in this, we
Yeah.
are in it.
yeah,
It's your flag
Yeah.
today, it's somebody else's flag tomorrow. And that is the absolute thing I fear most, is you can't say no then. But that's why I
you know,
say, let's
maybe
celebrate
the
it.
DEI committee, can look at a year's worth of, you know, well, I mean, every day there's something,
right.
an organization is honored or a thing is honored, but, you know, look for the big things that make sense. And, you know, it may be 3 times a year or something like
Yeah.
that, not every single month. Of course, banners get expensive, but you
Yeah.
save them and then you bring them out the next
Right.
year.
To your point, Deb, federal government has come out with a number of flags, correct? That are permitted to be flown
Yes.
on federal properties. You know, maybe that's a way that we look at this.
That is a way to look.
Yeah,
Based on what they have come out with, that's what we go to.
Right. And I don't think there's 12, but I could be wrong. I don't know exactly. I don't know either.
Sure.
Yeah, no, real quick. I mean, that was kind of my point of
Yeah.
just thinking that there is, and, you know, traditionally in all of policies and history is that we tend to lean on the default, that because of rules, and I like to go on tradition. I like rules. That's what I know what to do. And yet I've been challenged to look beside that and look at who the rules support. And so in this, sometimes it's that you know, the age old, well, you know, Pandora's box, we don't want to deal with that. And I get that because I understand that thought process. But then, you know, we've come, so many people that have been discriminated against and have been marginalized have, I feel, suffered long enough. And it's like, if not now, then when? So we wait till another generation comes through and says, you know what, today's the day we're going to put it on the flagpole because now we're ready. Why not now? I mean, it has been federally approved to flag embassies. I'm like, you know what, we'll deal with it as they come. If a bunch of flag requests comes in, then we deal with it. But it just
Well,
seems
I
that,
see, I really disagree with that. We're the board that has to be the stewards of whatever the decisions are. What we need is a policy to deal with it,
Mhm.
not deal with it when it comes. You understand? what
I
I'm
do, I
saying?
just was still talking. So
I'm sorry.
no, and that is an excellent idea. So despite the interruption, I still agree with you. I think that it is important to have a policy, to have something to go back to. It just, I guess my point prior to coming to that conclusion is that I do feel that it's just to kind of, I've heard so many discussions around should we, and it is a bunch of non-diverse people discussing about other people's rights and inclusiveness in a public environment. So it just challenges me to say like, hey, maybe I should step into somebody else's shoes. So with that being said, I will stop. And I do think, Trustee Sublett, that's an excellent idea to move forward with maybe a policy to be able to handle future requests.
I just think we have to remember, whatever the board decides, that we are not our own corporate authority. We are part of the Village of Arlington Heights. And, oh yeah, we are. No, financially, we are not our own. We're not a district. And I just think that we need to be mindful of decisions the village has made, that if we do something, you know, different. And again, I'm talking about the flagpole, you know, thing, but just to, you know, to be mindful of that and understand there could be repercussions.
No, there can't, because the ordinance that was passed by the village specifically said we can do what we want and so can the park district. Their ordinance designated only certain village flagpoles in this village, not ours.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
So we are in the free and clear, and they did that specifically to let us make
I
up our
think
own
they
mind.
did.
And they said that at their meeting.
I was
So,
not aware of that,
okay,
so good.
so that's one reason why I bring it up, because they're letting us make up our own mind. So I
And,
think the idea of going back to the EDI committee is actually a fantastic thing. Yeah.
I'm personally envisioning big banners hung from the top of the building all the way down on either side of the openings, you know, the entrances. And I think that'd be fabulous.
I feel like a couple of the churches along here have flags like that.
Oh,
During June.
we're in for a big surprise this June. They've ordered thousands of flags for this
Well,
June.
Yeah, I
They're
just
gonna be
think
in every
like
yard all around town,
particularly
including John Suplet's.
in this part of
I'll put
town.
one there for, as a gift. So yeah, there's gonna be a big visibility this year. It's gonna be shocking. I do believe.
No, I'll just say that I'm in agreement with what everybody says. You know, I'm fine with this concept, with this idea of doing something, whether it's a flag or whether it's a banner that's at both doors. I do like that idea a lot. I think what we have to do as a village, our own village entity, is that we do have to figure it out. I think taking it to the committee to kind of come back, but I think also what we need to do is we need to look at it from what we talked about, what the federal mandate is as far as that, and come back with a policy and let us debate that. Let us talk that over and how we want to go about that. Does that make sense?
I think that's fair. I also think, like, where would that come, which budget line item would that come from?
For the banners,
Yeah,
our communications and marketing.
So Mary.
well, I'm glad you're on the Zoom then, Mary.
Right. Okay, good. That sound good? Are you clear? Do we leave any ambiguity out there? No?
Okay. Yeah, look at the list for the federally accepted flags and come back with suggestions for policy.
And also talk to the DEI.
Yeah.
Right, through the
DEI, whatever we call it.
We're different, EDI, most places
Is it
say
EDI? Okay.
DEI.
I hear
Diversity,
something.
equity, and inclusion.
Belonging and mattering, I've heard too.
The only other thing that I had for other has to do with now that we do not have the mask mandate here at the library, do we want to continue having meetings here or do we want to go back to our home upstairs? Any thoughts on that?
Oh,
Home? That's why I'm leaning toward. Does anybody have any issues with?
I have no, whatever, the staff, whatever easier for people, I think.
my part of being down here, that's all I'm thinking. I'm gonna some work on it.
Any issues from?
No, it's just your comfort level, just if the board feels comfortable going back to the boardroom, we'd be happy to move back up there. Yeah, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. So there's no negatives against that. Yeah, let's plan on the next board meeting being back up there.
Okay.
Okay, any other?
I have another question, and it has to do with the form that we fill out as trustees.
Janet,
Is this a time that I could ask a question?
yes.
It seems a little intrusive. Has anyone else found that
Well,
to be the case?
yeah, I mean, if you read in Kane County, we did not get the definitions. Cook put those definitions. So I filled it out for Kane and I put all the stuff in. Then I read the Cook and said, does not include this, does not include that, does not, I said, okay,
But it's
so,
your family income, right?
pardon?
It's your family income.
Yeah, that's-
You don't have to put that in. You don't put any numbers in.
No.
You don't put any numbers in,
Just
no.
put what the source, you can say.
Got it.
But, your home,
Yeah.
your home, your vehicles, your- all of
529
that is,
for college, all that
not-
kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Got it. Okay, never mind then. Thank you for the clarification.
If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to work with you on it.
Clearly, I didn't read it as specifically as I should
I've been
have.
over and over.
As you're both farther than I am right now. I know I have to do it, Janet, so I will get it taken care of. Okay, any other? Okay, can we have a motion to go into closed session, please?
I'll move that we go into closed session in accordance with 5 ILCS 120/2C1 for the purpose of discussing personnel issues.
I second.
Second, okay. Just came to our attention today that we need to do roll calls with this, so roll call, please.
Trustee Gallo.
Yes.
Trustee Meadow.
Yes.
Trustee Rule.
Yes.
Trustee Smart.
Yes.
Trustee Samari.
Yes.
Trustee Stepler.
Aye.
President Zick.
Yes. All right, cool. Okay, all right.
done.
I totally
Okay, all right, we are now coming back into open session for the Board of Library Trustees, Committee of the Whole, Monday, April 4th, 2022. Let's go around and just do a quick roll call, who's here?
John Sutcliffe.
Amy Samari.
Andy Rule,
Carol Mennel.
Sarah Gala.
Debbie Smart.
Greg Zick,
Like
just
just
say everybody's name real quick.
Trustee Gallo.
Janet
Oh,
Robbins.
sorry, Judy Dorr.
Yeah, say your name, okay, just kind of figuring that out. Okay, do we have a motion for approval of the minutes for the closed session?
I move approval.
Any comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, that's going. Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and we are done.
Great job.
Julie, do you live near me? Where do you live? You look so familiar.
Berkeley Square.
Oh, you live in Berkeley one?
I have that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I live in the neighborhood, sometimes people walk at lunch or something, you know?
No, but I have one thing. Are you going first?
Something, right? Or trouble?
No, I think I.
Okay.
Two
sessions.
All American, All American Beauty.
An All-American Club.
All American.
Thanks, everybody.
Is there?